There's no doubt that DeWALT makes some fantastic tools for woodworking, and many of you agree because that's the brand you chose for your shop. However, I think Milwaukee actually cares more about woodworkers in 2024 than DeWALT, and I think I can prove it with these 5 tools. But there's 2 that DeWALT just simply does better. Come on, Milwaukee, 2 more and you got them. Now, the number 1 tool and reason I think that Milwaukee cares about you more than DeWALT is their brand new 3-inch sander. Now, I did a full review of this sander. If you want to go check it out, it's on the channel, but I'll give you the highlights. First and foremost, it's a small 3-inch detail sander. So if you have your 5-inch sander, one of these is probably what you would want to pick up next because it's great for getting into tight spaces. So if you're doing cabinets and boxes and drawers, things like that, this is going to be perfect. As well, if you have a CNC, you need to get inside small parts, this is where this really shines. And also, it does come with that interface pad, so if you're sanding edge profiles and things like that, it's not going to damage the edge of your project with this small sander. Now, a couple of great features about this sander is it's on the M12 platform, so you're going to be able to use your M12 batteries. If you're not in that platform, you should be. They're amazing. And it does have the LED light, and it does have 4 speeds, as well as this is a variable speed sander. So if you pull the trigger a little bit, you're going to get a little detail sanding. The harder you pull it, the faster it's going to spin. So that's a really great feature as well. On top of all that, it has very good dust collection for something this small. This is one of my favorite Milwaukee purchases that I've purchased myself this year, and I did purchase that myself. All these Milwaukee tools I bought myself. Before we get to number 2, you can check the links in the description and the pinned comment for any of the tools I talk about if you want to check them out for yourself. Or you can just click that shop or view products button here on the screen to shop on YouTube. Next up is this tool right here. And no, this is not the pack out. It's not what I'm talking about anyway. This is a pack out. This is the companion to the 3-inch sander, and this is their fine detail sander. I absolutely love this Milwaukee tool. This is probably my favorite Milwaukee tool that I've ever bought, simply because of how useful this is. I use this all the time in the shop because of how versatile it is. It has this nice, I call it a home plate design because I like baseball and it looks like a home plate. This design helps you get into the corners and tight spaces of a lot of products. This, very similar to the 3-inch sander, has variable speed with the trigger. It also has the 4 speeds buttons on top, and it does come with that interface pad, so you can do your edge profiles and things like that with this as well. The only downside to this, in my opinion, is the lack of dust collection. There is 0 dust collection, so it does make quite a dusty mess. But as far as usefulness and power goes, this thing will work extremely well. Now, this is a fine detail sander. This is not meant for sanding really, really large projects. This is meant for getting up into the corners and getting inside of boxes and trays and things like that. That's where I find this the most useful. Now, a lot of people try to compare this to an oscillating tool that's just moving side to side. This is an orbital detail sander. So much like your regular sander that's spinning, this does orbit. And so you're getting that fine orbit, so you're getting a finer finish. That's why I think this is the number 2 tool, the number 2 reason why Milwaukee loves you more than DeWALT. As far as I know, DeWALT has absolutely 0 answer for these cordless detail sanders. Yes, you can get a 5-inch random orbit sander in cordless or corded. It is by far, their corded version is by far my favorite sander for under $100 is the DeWALT. But Milwaukee's sander is also up there as far as a very good value. I did a whole video breaking that down, best sander under $100. But I don't think they have anything like this. And they don't seem to be coming out with anything unless they surprise us all. But currently, they don't have an answer for it. But Milwaukee doesn't have an answer for one of DeWalt's tools, which we'll talk about. The number 3 tool, and reason why Milwaukee loves you more than DeWALT, they made a very, very, very good track saw. Now, not that DeWalt's track saw is bad, but it is also very old as far as tools go. It's been on the market for a long time, and it's kind of awkward. While I love the power of the DeWALT, the most powerful cordless track saw that I've used to date is the DeWALT, and it does everything you want it to do, but it's just awkward in the way that it plunges and it just had a few quirks there. And it's a 60 volt. You can't use your 20 volt batteries on it. It's just, I don't know. It is not my top pick for track saws on the market. And I did a full breakdown video on the top track saws on the market, and the top 3 were Festool, Milwaukee, and Makita. Milwaukee is a strong contender as one of the best track saws on the market for several reasons. Number 1, power and battery life. You can use your M18 batteries and it will cut through most anything you want it to. Doesn't matter if it's thicker hardwoods or sheet goods or anything. And as far as battery life goes, I was able to cut a ton of plywood with this. I did a battery test with it to see how many strips I could get cut with the battery. It lasts a long time. You're not gonna have to worry about your battery life going out on you. And the main reason I like this Milwaukee is the accuracy. It doesn't have tons of deflection on it, so you're gonna get good square cuts when you're cutting those thicker boards. And the adjustability. It is absolutely one of the best track saws as far as being able to adjust your depth quickly with the little push button, and then also just adjusting your bevel cuts. Has anti-tip. Dust collection is absolutely great on this track saw. It's just one of the better tools that Milwaukee makes, hands down. If you buy this in the combo kit, one of the great things I've loved about this track saw is how it's packaged. It comes in this pack out with a super nice foam insert. It can hold the clamps that come in that package. Then you also get the charger, the battery, the saw obviously, and a 55-inch track for less than $800. It's one of the best values for track saws on the market for a high-end track saw. Now there are budget options out there for those that don't want to spend that kind of money, but for what you get in this package at this price range, and they regularly go on sale too, it's just a very, very good value. The reason I think Milwaukee cares for woodworkers more than DeWALT in the track saw department, DeWALT just hasn't innovated on their track saw in years and years and years, and this is relatively new, only about a year and a half old at the time of this filming. DeWALT needs to pick up the pace here and come out with a new version of their track saw, and then our opinions might change on that. I get questions all the time on which track saw someone should start with. This, Festool, and Makita, depending on which platform you want to go with, are my top 3 picks. But this has been one of my favorite track saws for the last several years since I bought it, actually. I've just really enjoyed having it. It also uses standard tracks, so you can use different track saw accessories like guide rail squares, things like that, so you're not getting into a proprietary track like Rigid and Ryobi has. I'm telling you, if you bought this, you're not gonna be disappointed. Fourth on the list, Milwaukee come out with this 1/2-inch, 2¼ horsepower, peak horsepower router this year, and it is a beast. I'm talking powerful cordless router. It is a fantastic tool. Now I really like this tool when I reviewed it. I like the fact that it does come with a plunge base and a fixed base. Now you can currently buy just the bare tool with the fixed base for $359, bare tool. It's kind of pricey, but for a cordless router, in this power range, 2¼ horsepower, there's just not many options to choose from on the market, except maybe DeWALT, which we'll talk about in a minute. The real value here is if you get both, because the plunge base is where it really shines. I do like the hand grip on the fixed base. You slide your hand through it, it's very ergonomic, feels really nice. But I also like that plunge base. It worked extremely well. The plunge base gives you 2½ inches of consistent travel or travel height. You also get a 6-step turret style depth adjustment, and you get micro adjustments so you can really dial in the depth that you need. It also has variable speed that goes from 12,000 to 25,000 RPM, so you get a wide range of speeds there depending on your bit's needs. You also get 1/4 and 1/2-inch collets, and it comes with an edge guide, which is always a good bonus to have with a router. And on top of all of those features, it's actually a great router. It just has a lot of power. It powers through anything you want to throw at it. I put it through the test. And the dust collection is actually very good on this router. And there's a lot of people that will say, I'm not getting a cordless router if I have to hook up dust collection to it anyway. So be it. But I like the cordless tools personally. I would prefer to get cordless tools in the shop versus corded tools, even though I can plug them in right here. It's silly, but I just don't like dealing with that cord all the time. Just makes one less thing I have to deal with as far as getting in the way. Now don't get me wrong, I think DeWALT crushes Milwaukee with 2 tools, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the 5th tool, I think, where Milwaukee really does better than DeWALT, and why I think they like you better. Now the Milwaukee M18 trim router is by far my favorite trim router that I own. I do have the DeWALT, and I've had it for quite a while, but I also have Flex, Ryobi, Makita, Rigid. You can see I have several here to choose from, and I grabbed this one every single time for a few reasons. The #1 reason why I like this more than the others is because of basically the grip in the hand. The DeWALT, as well as the Flex, which is a clone of the DeWALT if you ask me, the base on these 2 things are massive. Like as far as you trying to hold your hand around it, what happens is your hands spread out further and you're trying to do a lot of routing. You'll get a lot of fatigue there, your hand will start hurting. It may sound minor, but when you start using these for a lot of work, your hands start cramping up. It's just unpleasant, I guess. It just fits in the hand better on the Milwaukee, and that's the main reason I like it. And I'm not the only one, because I've heard from several of you that say the same thing about the DeWALT. Probably the Flex too, but who's buying Flex? Second reason I like this Milwaukee better is the fine-tune adjustment knob works extremely well. I just like that thumb screw design versus the twist knob, but that's a personal preference, I know. And so it's the grip, I guess, but I still like this one better. The fact that this is so uncomfortable to hold is the reason why I mounted it in my little portable router table, mini router, whatever you want to call it. That's why this lives in there, is because of how uncomfortable it is to hold and use. But it works great in the little router too. Before we get to the DeWALT's two tools that really dominate Milwaukee, and they have no answer for yet, Milwaukee Pack Out. I know T-Stack, a lot of people love their T-Stack storage systems, but they're just not as prominent. You don't have that aftermarket following like Milwaukee has, where you can get all these accessories and add-ons and things if you so chose to do that. But overall, I just think the Milwaukee system works better. As far as the quality of each system, DeWALT versus Milwaukee, I think you're fine on either one. They're both very well made. You don't have to worry about them breaking a lot or failing on you or anything like that. I just think Milwaukee has way more options from anything you want to store, even wall storage, van storage, shop storage, whatever you're looking for. I think Milwaukee really does do a better job there. You tell me if I'm wrong. You probably will. Two tools DeWALT absolutely dominates Milwaukee in. Yes, I'm a Milwaukee fanboy. Yes, I'm a DeWALT fanboy. Yes, I'm a Festool fanboy. I just like tools. And so I think everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and everyone's gonna agree or disagree on what tools those are, which works best for you, which ones you've bought into, all that good stuff. But I think, while I did mention that the Milwaukee they loved you more because of the Milwaukee router, this is a superior plunge-based router. And the reason I say Milwaukee cared more is because you get the fixed and the plunge base. This is plunge base only. This motor will not come off of this base. Of course, you can fix it in position and use it like that, but you don't get that fixed base option. But this does have that anti-rotation technology that shuts off. It has an overload protection on the top that lets you know if you're overloading the tool, which is going to make your battery life last longer if you pay attention to that. It's also going to make the tool life last longer and the bit life last longer. I really do like that. And as far as plunge bases go, I think this is a better plunge base than the Milwaukee. Again, the only reason I say Milwaukee likes you better is because they get the option of the fixed base as well as the plunge base and the edge guide, which this doesn't come with. If you only need a plunge base and you're the DeWALT, I have a whole video on this router. It's an absolutely amazing tool. And Milwaukee should have had some of these design features in theirs when they made it, specifically the anti-rotation, since they already have a patent on something very similar for routers, which I featured in a video. I think if you're comparing the DeWALT 2¼ horsepower to the Milwaukee 2¼ horsepower, it's gonna come down to, do you need that fixed base? Because if you do need the fixed base, then you should probably go with the Milwaukee. But if you don't, and you don't really care about that, and you just want a really good plunge router, while I do think Milwaukee cares about you more, I think DeWALT makes a better plunge router in the cordless version, by far. So maybe they care about you more when you buy routers. And the number one tool DeWALT dominates Milwaukee in is absolutely the DeWALT DW735X, the planer. Does Milwaukee even have a planer? This DeWALT DW735X is by far the standard for benchtop planers. It is basically an icon now. It's been around for so long that it's easily recognizable as soon as you see it, and Milwaukee has no answer to that. You can also put that bird helix head upgrade in there and just make it's awesome. Now, it's one of those tools that I think every woodworker should buy in a small garage shop if the budget allows. If you're looking for the top of the line benchtop planer, buy once, cry once type thing, it's gonna be that DeWALT DW735X. It's just that good. Milwaukee doesn't even have a planer other than the handheld electric thing. They don't have a benchtop style thickness planer for woodworkers. They both have table saws and miter saws and everything else that you would use for woodworking except the planer. So I think that's where DeWALT really edges them out, but you're not in a battery platform at that point, so you can still buy all these amazing Milwaukee tools and just get the planer. That's what I did. Are you looking for a game plan to help you turn your woodworking passion into profit? I just made a step-by-step blueprint that details exactly how you can do that. Check it out, first link in the description and the pinned comment. So who do you think cares more about you as a woodworker? Milwaukee or DeWALT? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, check out the full Milwaukee router review or the DeWALT router review, whichever camp you're in. Clicking either box gets you the big old virtual fist bump.